So now that we've gotten algebra tiles out of the way and we know why we use these specific rules in order to solve equations, let's just go ahead and go through a couple of examples. So there's mainly going to be 4 situations that you're going to run into. Later on, we will do things like combining like terms before we go ahead and solve, but here are the main 4 things you're going to run into. Option number 1 is adding and then dividing, then subtracting and then dividing, which looks like 12x plus 7 equals 43. Then option 3 is going to be adding and then multiplying, so we have 1/2 minus 3 is equal to 3. Just notice this 1/2 x minus 3 equals 3, you could just rewrite it as x over 2. Minus 3 is equal to 3. And then lastly, subtracting and then dividing. So over here we have a fraction, 2/3 of x plus 5 is going to be equal to 13. And then the same thing is going to be 2x over 3 plus 5 is equal to 13. Now, we'll show you in class why these two are equivalent. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first example. So pretty simple. I have 5x minus 4 is going to be equal to 31. Now remember, what is our goal? Our goal is to isolate x, get x all by itself, and then afterwards we'll know our value of x. So we have 5x here, but this minus 4 is in our way of getting to that 5x. So I want to make this equal to 0. So basically I have minus 4, which is negative 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and add 4 on this side and then add 4 on this side. So this creates a 0 pair. So I could cancel that out. Now I have 5x is going to be equal to 31 plus 4 is 35. At this point, I could go ahead and divide each side by 5. Right, so over here we have x is going to be equal to 7. Alright, so I added first, plus 4, and then I divided. So now I have x is going to be equal to 7. Now let's just go ahead and plug in and see if that works. So 5 times 7 minus 4 is going to be equal to 31. Remember, whenever you're substituting a number in, make sure to put those parentheses there. So 5 times 7 is 35, minus 4 is going to be equal to 31. And of course 35 minus 4 is equal to 31. 31 is equal to 31, so yes, that's definitely done correctly. Now, let's go on to our second example. Subtracting and then dividing. So I have 12x plus 7 is equal to 43. Once again, I want to be able to get this x all by itself. This plus 7 is in the way. So how do I make a plus 7 equal to 0? So I have to minus 7 and then minus 7. So I have 12x is going to be equal to 43 minus 7 is going to be equal to 36. So then I divide by 12 and then I divide by 12. So in this case, x is equal to 36 divided by 12 is 3. Okay, so then I subtracted and then I divided here in this situation. Now let's of course go ahead and plug in because we want to always try to check. So 12 times x, in this case x is 3, plus 7 is going to be equal to 43. 12 times 3 is 36, plus 7 will in fact give us 43. Alright, so 36 plus 7, 43 is equal to 43. I've done my check. Alright, now let's get to the more complicated ones. So I could rewrite this, I could write this in 2 different ways. So I have half of x minus 3 is equal to 3. Notice how I could also do x over 2 minus 3 is equal to 3. Well, how could I do that? I have 1 over 2, right? This is just multiplying fractions, right? I have x over 1 minus 3 is equal to 3. So x times 1 is just x. 2 times 1 is 2 minus 3 is going to be equal to 3. Alright? So I just wanted to show you that to let you understand, especially when you get into algebra next year. These are the same thing. But in some situations you want to use this version versus that version or vice versa. Now, let's see how we'll solve the first one. we have half of x minus 3 is equal to 3. So I'm going to go ahead and add 3 here and add 3 here. I want to get this to equal to 0. That's why I did that. So I have half of x is going to be equal to 6. Alright? Now, in order to go from here, I have to, I'm basically, this is basically a multiplication problem. So in order to divide this, I'm going to have to multiply by its reciprocal. Multiply by its reciprocal. So this cancels this out, because 2 times 1 is just 2. 1 times 2 is just 2. So I have 2 over 2x is equal to, in this case, 6 times 2 is equal to 12 over 1. Alright, so this just simplifies to 1x. So I could just write x. I don't have to write 1x. So now x is equal to 12. Alright, so here is how we do it the other way. X over 2 minus 3 is equal to 3. Once again, I want to get to this. I want to get to this x all by itself, but this minus 3 is in the way. So I'm going to add 3 here, and then I'm going to add 3 here. So I have x over 2 is going to be equal to 6. Now, same thing over here. In order to cancel this out over here, I'm going to have to multiply by 2. That gets rid of this, right? If I have 2 x's and I'm dividing by 2, how many x's do I have? I just have 1x. So I have to multiply this by 2 as well. So as you can see, both ways, x is equal to 12. Now, let's just go ahead and plug in just to make sure. So 1/2 of x, which is 12, minus 3 equals 3. Half of 12 is 6. So 6 minus 3 equals 3. 6 minus 3 is 3. So 3 is equal to 3. That's definitely correct. But let's try it the other way. So we have x, which is going to be 12. We'll substitute that in. 12 over 2 minus 3 equals 3. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 minus 3 equals 3. 6 minus 3 is not 6. It equals 3. And 3 equals 3. So as you can see, it works both ways. Just pick whichever way is comfortable to you. Would you rather just write a 2 here and then cancel it out? Or would you rather put 2 over 1 and then just multiply that through? Okay? So just understand that they're both the same thing. Let's move on to our final example. Subtracting and then dividing. So once again, I'm just going to show you that these two are the same. We have 2/3 of x plus 5 is going to be equal to 13. Let's rewrite this as multiplication. Just x over 1 plus 5 equals 13. So what's 2 times x? That's just 2x. 3 times 1 is just 3. Plus 5 is 13. So as you can see, these are in fact the same. Alright? Now, let's go ahead and solve. We have 2/3 of x plus 5 equals 13. I want to get x all by itself, but what's in the way is this positive 5. So let's just go ahead and subtract 5 from each side. I have 2/3 of x is going to be equal to 13 minus 5, which of course is going to be equal to 8. Now, in order to get rid of this guy right here, this is showing a multiplication problem. 2/3 times a number is going to be equal to 8. So in order to reverse that, I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2/3. To divide by 2/3 just means to multiply a number by its reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 2. And then let me just put a 1 here just to show that I'm multiplying. Now of course this is going to be equal to 6 over 6, which is just 1. So I just have 1x. So I could cancel that out. 8 times 3 is going to be equal to 24. Alright, 24 divided by 2, x is going to be equal to 12 in this case here. X is going to be equal to 12. Okay, now let's try the other way. We have 2x over 3 plus 5 equals 13. So of course, same thing, minus 5 minus 5. The first step is going to be the same. 2x over 3 is going to be equal to 8. Now, I have to get rid of this 3 at the bottom. In order to get rid of this 3, I'm going to have to multiply by 3 here. So what happens here is that these cancel out. Now I just have 2x is equal to 24. And then once again, divide by 2, divide by 2. I get x equals 12 again. Let's go ahead and plug in both just to see that we have the correct answer. Always plug in at the very end. So plus 5 equals 13. What's 2/3 of 12? 2/3 of 12 is going to be equal to 8. 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. So 2 of those 4's is 8. So 8 plus 5 is equal to 13. 13 equals 13. So yeah, that's definitely correct. Now the other way, 2 and then x is 12 over 3 plus 5 equals 13. 12 times 2 is 24. 24 divided by 3 is 8. And of course 8 plus 5 is 13. That's correct. Okay, so these are the 4 situations in which you will run into these problems in this unit. Now, of course, like I said, there's going to be other problems in which you'll have to combine like terms on each side first before you could go ahead and try to solve for x. But generally, these are the 4 problems you'll be running into in 7th grade pre-AP. Now, always refer to this video if you have any questions or if you're stuck. All right, that's it.